Thank you all for being here. I'm Janet Erickson. I am privileged to serve as the Chancellor at the University of Minnesota Morris. And I am pleased to be here for the dedication of this 280 kilowatt solar field, the latest of several solar arrays that the University of Minnesota Morris has constructed. This one just happens to be in a dairy pasture owned by our partners at the West Central Research and Outreach Center. And you can see that it's very picturesque. The cows are neatly positioned as if we plotted them there. We didn't. They did it all by themselves. We'll hear much more about this collaborative project shortly. First, however, I would like to thank and acknowledge some of those collaborators who are here today. Morris Mayor and alumnus Kevin Wohlers. Stevens County Commissioner and Board Chair Bob Kopitsky. I saw Bob. Oh, there you are. Hey, Bob. Russell Gilberg, President of Energy Concepts, the contractor for the solar project. Oh. And Jason Grenier from Ottertail Power Company. This array is just another step on our pathway to a fully sustainable future, a future that is tangible and promises to be vibrant thanks to our outstanding students who are and have been leading us in these efforts. One of those student leaders is Riley Tollefsrud, who's from Brainerd and now in his 4th year at the University of Minnesota Morris with majors in psychology and Spanish. Riley has done already a great deal in his time at the Morris campus. As a student hall director for residential and community life, which is one of our key student leadership positions, and in other roles across campus, his goal has been to leave Morris a lot more connected than it was when he first arrived, which if you count backward was in the midst of the depths of the pandemic. We are so grateful for his student leadership. Please welcome Riley Tollefsrud, the president of the Morris Campus Student Association.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you all for being here this afternoon. I'm incredibly honored to be here with you all today to celebrate 500 kilowatts of solar energy. It's a fantastic way to start our homecoming weekend. I'd first like to thank Senator Westrom and the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund for their support in funding this project. I'm extremely grateful to be on a campus that cares about sustainability as much as we do, and one that has the support necessary to pursue our climate-friendly goals. Our hard work doesn't go unnoticed, however. There's a reason the Wall Street Journal published an article about our sustainability efforts. We are innovators and pioneers, lighting the path towards a brighter and more sustainable future. This work is undoubtedly important for the health of our planet, and that's exactly why projects like this are so meaningful to our student body. Seeing the work that is being done to ensure our planet's safety allows our students to focus their efforts on making positive changes in their own communities, and to rest assured that the environment is in good hands. We truly appreciate all of the efforts to maintain a greener future for our students, so that when we graduate, we can go on to solve all the rest of the world's problems. Thank you.
It's that attitude that really makes us love the students we get to serve here. We are now very pleased to have with us today Regent Doug Hipsch. Doug Hipsch is a University of Minnesota alumnus who spent some time on the Morris campus when he started college and a member of the University of Minnesota Alumni Association Board. As a farmer, father of 3 additional University of Minnesota alumni, and a business owner, the University of Minnesota has touched his life in a number of ways, and he swears by the notion that a strong university makes for a strong Minnesota. He is also, I will note, a reliable enthusiast for the Morris campus and for the kind of work we are celebrating today. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. I want to thank you, Chancellor Erickson. Yes, I lived right over here in Independence Hall, and I had a great experience. And I'm from Ottertail County, which is halfway between here and Crookston, so I really have a love of Western Minnesota, and it's been good to me and my family. So it's my pleasure to be here today on behalf of the Board of Regents to celebrate the dedication of this 280 kilowatt solar panel field. Our university is strong in community outreach and engagement. In fact, the U has a presence in every corner of our great state through our 5 system campuses, extension offices in each of Minnesota's 87 counties, numerous research sites, and our 10 research and outreach centers. The university continues to deliver science-based solutions and engagement through more than 1,700 partnerships across the state. Our work is not just in labs and research fields. U of M Extension reaches more than 1 Minnesotans each year in every county in the state through educational program that is rooted in research and responds to local citizens' needs. As many of you know, the Morris campus is uniquely positioned to fuel innovation and connections throughout the region and state, including continued leadership in sustainability and workforce. The Morris campus has built a scalable partnership with the City of Morris and the university's West Central Research and Outreach Center. The Morris model provides a map for working together with local communities to solve problems by focusing on clean energy, transportation, waste reduction, recycling, and education. U of M Morris and Morris model have inspired similar research and engagement on all of our University of Minnesota campuses and in communities throughout the world. This field will serve to further the great work that the University of Minnesota and our community partners are doing together. With that, I will turn it back to Chancellor Erickson.
Thank you, Regent Hibsch. Our next speaker is someone I work closely with a lot, who has a lot of really good ideas that are moving us forward and is a great partner in these kinds of efforts. Vice Chancellor for Finance and Facilities and University of Minnesota's Morris alumnus, Brian Herman.
Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it, and we really appreciate it. It's exciting to celebrate this milestone. Several years ago, the University of Minnesota had the opportunity to partner with Otter Tail Power Company to install the 220 kW array that you see here in the West Central Research and Outreach Center pasture. Knowing that the West Central Research and Outreach Center faculty and staff do innovative dairy research, we thought this would be a mutually beneficial project, and it truly has been. Our goal was to determine if we could effectively use land for the dual purposes of solar energy production and agriculture. One thing we like to talk about in our community is how we do a lot of first things, and they happen here in Morris. For the first portion of this project, it was the first time that the company had constructed solar on panels 8 feet in the ground. They were able to respond to our challenge when other companies said it was impossible. The poles were pounded in the ground without concrete. For the recently completed second phase, which you see behind me with their slightly different colored panels, that was completed by Energy Concept, and they were able to replicate the same installation method. In May of 2022, we had the true test of the durability of this system. A derecho swept through our county with winds over 80 miles an hour. There were massive tree losses and structural damage, but the panels were just fine. They held up just fine. The new 280 kW addition builds on the success of the initial 220 kW installation and represents an expanded partnership with the West Central Research and Outreach Center. Funding for this project was provided by the Minnesota Environmental Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, LCCMR. And we will also benefit from direct pay benefits from the Inflation Reduction Act. We believe this is the largest dairy agrivoltaic installation in the upper Midwest. The Morris campus is 1 million square feet and home to over 1,000 people every day. We need about 1,000 kW to operate on many days. This expanded solar array brings us to 500 kW. So this project represents a really interesting opportunity for people to learn about the size, scale, and possibilities for rural solar projects. The Morris campus is carbon neutral in electricity, and we produce over 60% of our power from on-site production. The Morris model, a partnership with the West Central Research and Outreach Center, the City of Morris, Stevens County, and the Morris Area School District, has a goal to produce more clean energy in our county, and this project fits within that goal. The build-out of this solar array is the part of a larger battery storage project funded by LCCMR and in partnership with Otter Tail Power Company, and Jason is here, thank you, and OATI. We are working toward a goal of installing a grid-scale redox flow battery that will be the first of its kind in the upper Midwest. This will be a model for rural communities and farms. Finally, this project is American-made, Everything from the poles to the panels were made in the United States. We were able to benefit from federal funding and state funding to improve the economics and size of this project. For our campus and beyond, we are proud to be the leader in creating a laboratory for communities to see the future, and most importantly, for our students to learn and develop career skills for their future. Thank you.
As several of us have noted, this project is a partnership with one of our close neighbors and friends, the West Central Research and Outreach Center. I am pleased now to introduce the Director of Operations for the West Central Research and Outreach Center, Mike Reese. Mike.
Well, thank you, Janet. First of all, congratulations to the University of Minnesota Morris campus. I'd like to especially acknowledge the work that Chancellor Erickson and Vice Chancellor Herman have done. Janet and Brian, it's amazing. And I think as you look back, you see the cattle here too, and that's our role. We provide the cattle and they provide the shade. So it's a good, as Janet said and Brian alluded to, mutual benefiting for us. And I want to point out that this is an area called Agrivoltaics. It's, as already mentioned by Brian, it's combining both producing solar energy as well as getting value from the land and getting value from the structure. And I'd like to acknowledge some of my colleagues, Professor Brad Hines. Brad, you want to raise your hand? And Kirsten Moser, who have, and Eric Buchanan, I see Eric's joined us. And then our new professor, Malou. I'm not going to say your last name because it's too difficult for me. But we'll say that Brad and my colleagues are leaders in this field, not only in the state of Minnesota and the nation, but across the world. We have people contacting us and coming here almost on a daily basis, wanting to know how we do this where others cannot. And in that respect, this is not easy. I think Janet would also acknowledge that Brian's been carrying a lot of the weight for this type of project. And I guess I recall back to President Kennedy when he said, we don't do this because it's easy, we do this because it's hard. And this is a grand challenge for us to be able to combine agriculture and sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy, and look not only next year down the road, but look 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the road and what kind of impact we've had. And then I'll come back to 20 some years ago, and I'm probably stealing some of Senator Westrum's talk, but he always talks about sitting around a round table at the Toys here in Morris, a restaurant here in Morris, and working on a napkin, back of the napkin, to develop a plan for renewable energy in this community. And it wasn't just Senator Westrum and UMM and West Central Research and Outreach Center. It was also Ed Larson from the city of Morris. It was Dr. Redfield, superintendent of the city, or school system, excuse me, as well as Lowell Rasmussen from UMM, myself, Greg Como from West Rock, and Tori. And who would to think that 20 some years later, we'd be standing basically underneath 2 wind turbines, a solar PV system that's providing shade to cattle, along with other technologies like battery and hydrogen and ammonia production, autonomous weed control systems that are powered by solar. And it's just simply amazing to think back that just from that napkin, that we've had this result. And if you want to put dollars to it, it's probably in the $30 to $40 million range. And you think about that, almost $1 million a year that has come into our community, into our region, in many cases into our state, to develop these type of technologies and help us lead not only here in our region, in the state and in the nation, but across the world. And I just reference our partnership with our friends in Saarbeck, Germany, and North Rhine-Westphalia through the Climate Smart Municipality and project and Morris model. So I know this wasn't done by the people gathered into Toys. It was done by all of you. It was a partnership that through the years resulted in something and blossomed into something very special. But I have to be, and that includes legislators like Representative Anderson, includes other chancellors in the past, and other regents, other presidents of the University of Minnesota. But I would be remiss to say that this would not have happened, and at least at the scale, without Senator Westrum's work. And I think we need to give him a lot of credit. I see it as I also am on the Legislative Assistance Commission on Minnesota Resources. I see his work on our behalf. Just for example, we were selecting projects this past year. We went into a meeting. Our 2 projects that were in that proposal, were in that slate, were not being selected until Senator Westrum got to work and got those included. So, and that's over $1 million worth of funding. So little things like that go unrecognized make a huge difference. So I want to thank Senator Westrum for that work, along with Representative Anderson, who I know Senator Westrum calls and say, hey, will you please support this? So thank you both for all your work. And then just in conclusion, I would also agree that students are really driving this. I mentioned Kirsten Mosier earlier. She was a student in UMN campus. She did a lot of the early research, being a graduate student for Brad on agrivoltaics and solar shade. Some of these cows you might see are some of the most instrumented and smart and precision cows that you'll ever see. Maybe not these ones, but the ones up at our farm are. So it's a lot of efforts by students to drive these projects. I want to thank them as well. Congratulations again, Chancellor Erickson.
I think the cows are curious. What do you think? They want to know what we're doing over here. One of the joys of my job is talking with Morris alumni who are successful leaders across the state. One of those is our next speaker, Representative Paul Anderson, a 1974 University of Minnesota Morris graduate who has been serving in the state legislature for the last 15 years. Paul is currently the Republican lead for the House Agriculture, Finance, and Policy Committee, and we are so grateful to have his continuing support of the Morris campus and the University of Minnesota as a whole, and we are very glad to welcome him here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor, and welcome everybody. And I guess I'm dating myself, but talking about places we lived when going to school, I lived for a year in Blakely Hall. I also lived in the Teak House before that met its demise. So a lot of good memories here at UMM and of the education it provides and all it does for the city. And what I see is great collaboration between the city, the university, the West Central Station to get projects like this done. And I mentioned I'm a farmer. And there's been some concern about how much land is being used in the installation of solar panels, for example. Minnesota has a rule or statute that says you can't use prime farmland to install solar panels. But this is a great example of what can be done to combine different uses of our land, which is a finite resource. And I used to raise cattle. And these cattle aren't afraid of these solar panels. I mean, it's just part of their environment here, and they use it for shade. It's just great to see. And I'm going to pass this word along to those that still think that we can't do a couple of different things with the land, and in that way help the environment as well. Did a little research, and this is a half a megawatt of power, your total installation here. And usually it takes about 5 to 7 acres of land for 1 megawatt of power production-wise for solar. And in Minnesota, we have about 2,800 megawatts of solar-generated power as of the latest numbers I could get. And that's enough to power about 400,000 homes in our state and really makes a difference in terms of reducing our load of CO2 in the atmosphere and getting us on the way to reduced incidences of bad weather extremes and such. And looking ahead the next 5 years, we're looking at another 2,500 megawatts of power and about 4,600 new jobs in this new and exciting field of installation and such. Minnesota has 179 solar companies. That includes 35 that manufacture solar panels, 64 companies that do the actual installation, and 80 other companies that do other things in this whole area of installation and development of solar. And one thing that really interests me, in addition to being a diverse use of the land, is that the price and cost of solar has come down about 40% over the last 10 years. I was at a meeting yesterday with an ethanol plant, and they're looking at putting in a pretty major solar array, but they've kind of been waiting and holding off on that investment because the price keeps coming down year after year, and the quality of these panels keeps going up every year. And they feel that now is about the right time, with the equilibrium of lower prices and higher quality, to do their installation of solar as well. So it's really catching on as we learn that the good things that can happen with this. So again, congratulations to the university, to all those involved with this project. And again, it really shows all of us that we can do more than one thing on land, keep our prime farmland in production of agriculture, and use pasture land, things like this, along with producing forage for cattle and such, and also energy for our growing appetite for electricity and such here in Minnesota and across the country. So again, a great day, fitting the sun is shining brightly, and enjoy the day and all this electricity being created by Old Man Sun. So thank you all.
Thank you, Representative Anderson. Our final speaker for this afternoon is Senator Tory Westrum, about whom you've already heard a snippet, at least, of some of the things that he has been instrumental in helping us with. First elected to the Minnesota House of Representatives at the age of 23. I'm looking at Riley and Schuyler. Tory Westrum has served in the state Senate since 2012. Senator Westrum currently serves as the Republican lead of the Senate Agriculture, Broadband, and Rural Development Committee. He also serves as one of 5 senators on the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, which has provided funding for this project through the Environmental and Natural Resources Trust Fund. Senator Westrum, too, has long been a supporter of the University of Minnesota Morris, and we are so very grateful that he was able to join us here today. Senator Westrum?
And the microphone. Thanks. Well, thank you, Chancellor Erickson, and I just about said Johnson. That's been a few years. I'm dating myself. For all you youngins out there, Chancellor Johnson was the chancellor when I first was elected, followed by Chancellor Erickson doing a capable job with a few chancellors in between. So shout out to all the chancellors that have helped this vision and change the campus as opportunities and other needs arise. But thank you so much, and congratulations to all of you that have had a hand in this day that we're commemorating and celebrating the additional progress that's been made. Now, Mike and Paul have pretty much taken all my speech material away, so I just crumpled up all my notes, and I'm just going to ad lib. So for any of you that we're worried about a half-hour speech, as I told Sue Dieter when we came in. I left my notes at home, but no, it's just great to be here. And Sue, how did you pick such a nice day with the sun? I mean, this is marvelous. So kudos to you. Yeah, give her a hand. She's been in contact with our office since last May, so she's got a special knack to pick a day this far out. To have such a perfect no wind, just beautiful. So anyways, it is great to be here to celebrate the ribbon cutting and the beginning of this new research. In 2003, in the House of Representatives, our energy chair all of a sudden was abruptly appointed by Governor Pawlenty then to the DNR. And I was a member of the Regulated Industries Committee, never thinking about being a chair, but all of a sudden the Speaker of the House came knocking on my door and said, Representative Westrum, we're looking for a new chair, and I'd like to have you replace Representative Holston. Would you be interested? And I said, well, I would be interested, so I'm glad you came and talked to me about this. And just a little side note, some of you remember Representative Chuck Brown was my predecessor. He was a Democrat, I'm a Republican. But he had lobbied for Otter Tail Power and some other groups after he'd left the legislature. And before that, he had always said, Tory, keep your mind open to chairing this committee now that Holston's gone. And that was kind of a seed planted by former Representative Brown, who became a friend of mine. Later, after I had joined the legislature, he had left. I was running for his seat. And so I share that just to share some insight, because sometimes it seems like nobody can get along in different parties. But in fact, there's many opportunities that you can. But Speaker Swigum came and asked me to chair the Regulated Industries Committee. And I said yes, and I was up for the challenge. There was a challenge that year, 2003 it was, a little bill called Prairie Island 2, if any of you recognize that. And that was the nuclear storage bill on the Prairie Island, extending it. And in 1994, it was a very contentious bill. So one of the first things I did as chairman was the sergeant's office came and showed me all the secret escapes to the committee room where we would be having committees in anticipation of very volatile committees at times. And so they wanted to make sure I knew all the ways out of the room. Now that's the backdrop. And I share that with you just to give you some insight that sometimes isn't that exciting to people. But I share that because the vision that can come out of those positions and opportunities that you take, and the opportunity I took and as it came along as the energy chair, I look back today and think, man, what an opportunity, being at the right place at the right time, but having visions from other people before. And that's where Mike stole my thunder, but I'm going to repeat it because it's worth repeating. But in the meantime, as part of representing this district that I love to be an ardent voice for, we had a meeting with Greg Cuomo, Mike Reese, Lowell Rasmussen. He read you some of the names. And I have talked about this many times as we had the groundbreaking for the windmill up on the hill, the anhydrous ammonia, the autonomous mowers, the biomass heating and cooling plant on campus. And we had all of that vision that Greg Cuomo, Mike Reese, Lowell Rasmussen, and many others, there's probably 10 or 12 of us, were sharing with me as their vision for Western Minnesota and the research center and a new direction that they wanted to go. And so it was on the back of a napkin that this was all talked about, discussed, and the visions with details were what people saw and wanted to have in Morris and Western Minnesota, because it was a very apropos site to mix agriculture, renewable energy, and other opportunities to advance those technologies. So as that energy chair, one of the things, a little insight into my guiding principles, is it kept coming back to me that our energy policy is mainly like your retirement policy. Your retirement investment policy, do you put all your eggs in one basket or do you diversify? And it's come back to me over and over that it's the same. You diversify. There's some risk. There's some stable investments that you put money into. The same is with our energy policy. We don't want to put all our eggs in the basket of coal. We also don't want to put all our eggs in the basket of solar back 20 plus years ago and then wonder what happens in the middle of winter. So it was a policy of diversifying, and we know what works good, those steady investments, but we also need to advance those renewable opportunities. And so that Prairie Island bill led to that opportunity because of that back of the napkin meeting we had at Detoys when Governor Pawlenty came out with a $10 million proposal as part of the nuclear Prairie Island 2 bill. And as the chair and as a representative of this area, I was at the right place at the right time to say, hey, Morris, West Central Research and Outreach Center, is one of the places this research should happen. And so I share that with you. I've repeated to the U of M presidents over the years. We had put language in there specifically with funding amounts to Western or to the research station. And I always tell the president, this is a floor, it's not a maximum. And so it's just part of the story that many people maybe haven't heard all of. And so I'm happy to share it with you to herald the success and what's led up to this project today. Because there's been many efforts before that have led up to this. And if this was the first project, it probably wouldn't have happened, because we need all the things that have happened with the research station and the U of M and the leadership, Mike Reese, now at the helm. It's great to see that vision continue that Greg Cuomo was talking to me about on the back of the napkin. And so let this sink in, that this isn't just by happenstance, but there is more to come. And some of you have probably heard, and I know I'm getting a little long for you, but the cows are enjoying it, so I thought I'd keep them interested. But just remember how this all started. And there's more to come. And I've said over the years, because there's been some challenges. The biomass plant comes to mind as one challenge, some of the anhydrous ammonia. But I don't see that as a bad thing. Oh, we got to stop, change our direction. Because I also know the vision from the beginning and saw this. There's no better place to have research and development done than on a college campus and an outreach and research center. And so this is a perfect fit. And just like today is a perfect day, these research and development projects are exciting to see what's going to come, because it's part of what's contributing to that reduction that Representative Anderson talked about, the reduction in price. And this was the vision on the back of the napkin 21 years ago. And so it's great to be able to be here and celebrate and be a part of being an ardent voice for this common sense way to diversify our energy policy while we have some stable other sources. But wind and energy, or solar, hydro, natural gas and wind combinations, and other things that we can't even yet imagine today are still going to be developed. And that's what's exciting as part of a member of the LCCMR. I love advocating for Western Minnesota, but these projects, because that money through the lottery fund and is for research and development to make a better product, better technology for the environment. And so what better place to use LCCMR money focused on improving the environment on a college campus and research and outreach center where research can be done and the rest of the state can benefit, the rest of the country, and ultimately the rest of the world. And so I share that story, maybe a little long-winded, but hopefully it connects the long-term vision that so many of us have had, starting with the West Central Research and Outreach Center and the U of M here in Morris. And so it's been a long time coming, but what a great day to celebrate with cattle, agriculture, renewable energy, all working together. And there's more projects I know that are coming because we're working on them through the LCCMR. Mike referenced that earlier. And so there's more to come. There's more days like this. And this research is exciting to me. And what a great way to spend that investment. And in closing, Sue and those of you involved, make sure we get some of these video or pictures down to the LCCMR for them to promote. Because one of the efforts we're trying to do on the committee is get the word out of what the projects, tangible projects, we are funding with the Environmental Trust Fund money driven by the Lottery Fund that Mike Reese is such a capable, helpful member. As he referenced, he is on the committee now. Some of these he can't be a part of because it's right here in his backyard. But he offers such a wealth of insight and knowledge for the 220 to 30 projects a year we review, and then sort it down to probably 75 to 100 projects that get funding. And so that's the process. Then it goes to the legislature. And Brian Herman, I'd be remiss in not calling out his efforts as well and his vision that he's continued to carry on from Director Cuomo, Lowell Rasmussen, and so many others that have been a backbone of where we're at today. And so with that, I know I'm long-winded, but just remember, there's a lot of vision that can happen on the back of a napkin. Don't underestimate it. Thank you.
That concludes our program for this afternoon. The cows have moved over a little bit, but there's plenty of shade over there. Thank you all for being here to help us celebrate this next step. And it really is, as Senator Westrom said, a next step. There definitely will be more after this. Before you leave, I would like to invite everyone to please gather for a group photo behind that banner right there. So everybody who's here, you just have to walk over there. It'll be painless. The sun is behind you. Just join me over there. But thank you all for being here.